This is The Dig on the Huskers Radio Network podcast. Powered by Emeritus. Featuring Nebraska Volleyball assistant coach Kelly Hunter. Here's your host, Jessica Coody.
Welcome back to another episode of The Dig. I'm Jessica Coody. Again, The Dig is powered by Emeritus, and we are excited to have Kelly Hunter on for the very first time this season. When's that name going to change, by the way?
Oh, geez. January 11th, 2025, so right after season. It'll be changing.
I don't have to worry about that, making sure I get it right this season. It'll be next.
Right, yeah, next season.
Okay.
You have time to prepare.
Awesome. Well, how's it going so far? Obviously, 3 matches in. You guys had cramming them in there to start the season overall. How'd you feel like the first week went?
I think the beginning of the season's always interesting. It's everyone's first time playing, and obviously we opened up college volleyball and played even earlier than other teams, and it's crazy. We've already played 3 games before some teams have even played 1. So I think you just see in the preseason people are trying to figure out their lineups, their systems, and then there's a lot of really good non-conference competition and just playing ranked teams and stuff like that. You see it all across the board in the NCAA. So I think there's some really tough matches, but for us, we have a lot of moving parts and a lot of people who can help contribute, which is great. So it's just we're trying to fine-tune that. What's our lineup look like? What systems are we running? And then this team is also trying to find their kind of themes and how they function and what are their individual challenges this year compared to last year. So I think especially in the preseason, it's a lot of trial and error and figuring out what's in front of you and how we're going to respond.
Coach Cook, after the match against TCU, sounded a little frustrated with some of the things of how this team handled that match. But, you know, for a team like this that you guys just have such high expectations and you perform so well day in and day out, how do you guys handle when they don't play as well as you hope when you go into a match?
For us, obviously, we have Mayor Beeson, who goes all the way around right now, our 2 outsides, or whoever those are for that match, and then we have kind of an army of little people in the back row now. So it's been difficult to figure out kind of who goes where and how that works. But I think for us, since we have all these moving parts, if one person's having a bad game, usually everyone kind of steps up and picks it up for them. But I think what happened against TCU was we had a couple people not having a good game, and then there wasn't that one person who stepped up and then kind of filled those holes in our offense and stuff like that. So I think it was just interesting where we don't see that super often, where maybe 3 or 4 players aren't having a good night attacking, and it's hard when a big chunk of your team might not be playing their best. And so I think that's kind of what we saw, and just we didn't quite work our way out of it, and there wasn't that person who kind of filled the hole for everybody else. And I think we'll learn that as we go and how we have to balance out each other and step up when it's needed. And so I think it's just early volleyball against good competition. It's credit to TCU. They were gritty. They had a lot of really good defensive plays. They didn't really let anything hit the floor. So I think it was just frustrating for attackers, and then they just had to kind of learn how to work through that, and I think they had gained some good experience and something to learn from that match.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's got to be good to have that test here early before moving forward, and you're going to test it every night, and everybody wants to give Nebraska their best. So to be able to get pushed a little bit, were you guys pretty happy with that, to have that test?
Yeah, I think it just shows like your weaknesses and your holes when you play great competition. And so we always say if we win or lose, we want to learn something. And I think this team, they saw what they needed to, how they needed to adjust, and what they maybe as individuals needed to get better at in the moment under pressure. And so I think there was a learning lesson there. And talking after the game, we kind of let them know some of these issues that we saw, and they all agreed. So when everyone's on the same page and knows that we need to get better, that's usually a good sign.
You had mentioned, too, just the multiple hitters maybe being a little bit off. What role does Bergen and does the center play in trying to get that figured out when you're in the middle of a game?
Offense is hard. You have kind of your core things that you want to accomplish as a setter. Do I want to run the middle a lot against this team? Do they have a small blocker and I want to run the outside a little bit more? So it's really nuanced, and I think we have kind of our basic core key things that we want to accomplish, but then from there, it's feeling who's hot, who's not, and just kind of making those different choices based off of that. And just from experience, when you don't have that person, like I mentioned, who's stepping up and killing the ball when you need them to, you almost feel a little bit lost, and just because you feel like it's your fault they're not getting kills. And we talk a lot about how setting and hitting is a relationship. It's not the setter's fault. It's not the hitter's fault. It's how are we going to find a common theme and get better. And so sometimes as a setter, if your hitters aren't feeling it or they're not maybe playing as well as they should, it's difficult. Like, where do I set the ball now? And so I think there was a little bit of that, but as long as we stay true to our core values and we don't stray from those and just keep things simple and not try and do too much, it's easy for setters to feel like I need to find a kill somewhere and then start reaching or playing a little bit tense. But I think as long as we can stay true to our offense and what we want to run, and then finding little players who are hot or who are not here and there, it's really interesting and very intricate.
Coach Cook was saying, too, just talking about we got to get Merritt Beeson going, and we've seen Bergen rely heavily on Merritt. So how does that work? I mean, I know Merritt's a pro and she'll figure it out, but, you know, right now to get her going, how do you guys get Merritt going?
The cool thing is both Merritt and Bergen reached out to the staff, and they're like, we want to just talk through this. We want to do a couple extra reps, and it's hard because we've been playing so kind of sporadically. So we haven't had these intense 3-hour training practices just because we have to be fresh for the game. And so I think it's been hard for them to just kind of work through their connection because, like you said, it's normally so stable. So they're both kind of like, what's going on here? But the cool thing about those two is they came to us and wanted to find a solution and find a way to get better, whether that was extra reps or watching film. But those two, they're all over it before we could even really reach out and just say, hey, do you guys want to talk through this or anything? They reached out to us. So it's really cool to see kind of a player-led problem solving right there. So kudos to those guys for wanting to get better.
That's awesome. You know, you talked about, too, just figuring out the lineups, and you have so much talent and who you're going to turn to. What pressure does that put on the setter, too, when you've got so many different people running in and out and you're trying to figure out how that's going to look?
For Bergen and just for our setters, obviously we had freshmen come in, Skylar Pierce as attackers, and then Taylor and Layla. So trying to find that connection quickly. There's a lot of communication that happens, setter to hitter communication, the coaches giving feedback. And so I think because Taylor and Layla weren't here in the spring like Skylar was, we had to kind of figure that out fast. And so just as a setter, you know, everyone kind of has a little bit of a different set within our system. And so I think we've been figuring that out while we're playing matches. So it's a little bit difficult, but I think they're all like so willing to learn and to get better and to talk to each other and just find that connection. So it's really cool to see them take initiative over it. And then when it comes to match time, whoever's in there, you feel comfortable with them. So I think they've done a lot of work on that end, the relationship piece.
We've heard Coach Cook talk a lot about how with Bergen, she's like, you guys go to correct her. She's like, I know what I did. Like, she's so quickly to understand those mistakes and where she needs to correct them. What is the process like with her when she's going back and dissecting a match, and how she needs to improve and what she's looking for to be better?
For her, as soon as she touches the ball, she knows it's a great set or it's not. So
did you know that?
Yeah. And I think sometimes it's okay if it's a bad set because, like we said, it's a relationship and the hitters have a part in this too. And so for her, a lot of my feedback isn't set location just because that's what Coach talks about. She knows. Or if she makes a choice that might not have been the right choice because of X, Y, and Z, she knows right away. So there's a lot of her that's like, I know, I got it. I did this and I won't do that again type thing. But for us, when we kind of review matches, it's a lot about decision making and why did you set this person? What were you thinking? And she always has a reason. And so it's not just, oh, I was comfortable with that set, so I made that set. Sometimes that's the case, but for her, she's very cerebral and she understands kind of the flow of a match and finding that hot hitter and that type of stuff. So a lot of our review is just, hey, they were doing this against us defensively. Why did you make this choice? And we'll talk through that. And then it's kind of learning for the next match. Okay, if this happens again, if so-and-so's not your go-to this match, what's our answer? And so we talk a lot about that, just finding solutions, just because in the match it's hard to make changes. And so if we can do that prep in video either before or after a match, it just makes the match feel a lot easier.
John Baylor and Lauren were talking on the broadcast that it seems to be maybe she's tweaked her serve a little bit, and she was already someone that you guys relied on to start the matches. Is that different, and what was the goal there with her?
We're just getting her to be a little bit more aggressive. For her, sometimes it's just her hand contact gets a little bit wonky, and then she doesn't really know where the serve is going. But her toss, we've adjusted a little bit. It's a little bit more on her right shoulder, it sounds super basic. You want the ball in front of your hitting shoulder, but sometimes it was off to the left, off to the right, and then it was hard for her to get good hand contact on the ball. So we've almost just simplified, just say, hey, toss that ball on your right shoulder, line up exactly where you want to go, and thump it. So we've just been trying to get her to be a little bit more aggressive, and I think for her, and we challenged her on this in the spring, she's such a gifted setter. She was a second-team All-American. How do you get better? And so we've talked a lot about the other areas of her game as well, just because, like I said, she has that natural gift for setting and decision-making. So how can we be a better blocker, defender, and server? And we've seen her go on some crazy runs. So she's responding really well to that challenge.
Yeah, I was going to hit on that too. It seemed like too they were making note of her being more aggressive when she's on the front row, and offensively, how important is that for this team moving forward for her to be able to do that as well?
We have so many hitters at so many different positions, and then adding in the setter is just one more thing for the other team to have to think about. So we've seen her just act like I'm a hitter out there too, and that's a really cool spot to be, just because, you know, then she's feeling confident and she's feeling aggressive, and that's kind of the mentality you need your setter to have. But it's fun to watch her be part of the offense, not just the distributor of the offense. And yeah, she's been getting really aggressive up there, and I think it's great.
How proud are you of Kennedi Orr? And just, again, we talked about her throughout last season, but just the role that she's taken. I mean, she was the representative at Big Ten Media Days. I mean, she's just been now a weapon for you guys in a different way, but for her approach and her really embracing her role, that's going to make you really proud as her position coach. Yeah, she is just one of the best examples of just a Nebraska volleyball player, and she fully embraces whatever her role is. If she's serving, if she's not, she knows that if Bergen were to get injured or something, she's next in line, and she's always prepared for that. And so I just think she is a great example of our culture and the types of athletes that we want in our gym, the people who are committed to our program no matter the circumstances. And she comes in every day, and it's never like she's coasting. She's always wanting to get better and always trying to take advantage of her, or we kind of joke around that she's in charge of her own learning, and she'll try some new things here and there, and I kind of have to rein her in sometimes. But she's always coming in ready to get better. And then just in terms of our practices, usually she's on the non-starting side, and she has to be a leader over there. And so we talk a lot just about, hey, if you're on this side, you're the setter, you're the quarterback. You have to be the leader over there. And I think she has done a really good job of just making sure that side's focused and leading them and just making it tough on our A side every single day. So I want to commend her for her leadership skills and the way that she can kind of run that side over there. How do you like the student sections rowing the boat when she's back there?
Oh, I didn't even notice, because it's an oar. Yeah. They're so creative. I don't even know how they come up with this stuff, but maybe I'm too locked in on game day. I haven't noticed it yet.
You got to take in the atmosphere sometimes, Kelly.
Yeah, I need to pay more attention to the student section. They're dialed in, though.
Oh, yeah.
They know all the cheers. They have everything.
And then they add a few tweaks whenever there's... I wonder how they go about, like, hey, for this player, we're going to do this, or...
I don't know. And then they coordinate, because they're in 3 different locations. But I remember maybe it was a scrimmage or our last match, someone from the student section was walking from one of the corners to the other corner. He's like, hey, it's a little quiet over here. I don't hear you guys. So I think there's some accountability there in the 3 different student sections.
You guys love that, though. You love that.
They're into it.
You know, back to Kennedi, though, and just Lauren had made a comment once about usually setters are not the best at defense, but Kennedi obviously has really embraced that role. What's that process been like? Was she always good at it? Has it been something that, hey, this is the role that I'm taking on, and I want to become this asset for this team?
Yeah, I think it's a common misconception, or maybe it's a little bit true, that setters aren't the best at defense, like you said. But just with our level, the right back defender, they have to get tips. If the other team's setting it to their opposite, they're going to get a lot of digs, because a lot of people like to hit cross court. So her and I actually just talked about this in film the other day, because obviously you're a serving sub, you're coming in, you want to make your serve. Like, you don't want to be that sub that comes in and misses their serve. So we've talked a lot about that, just like, hey, how can we be aggressive while still keeping the ball in play? Because it's such a scary thing to come in for that one point. And so we talk about that. And then I actually said to her the other day, I'm like, hey, I know you're really focused on making your serve, almost to the point where I think, like, you're not quite as ready on defense, because you're like, okay, I made my serve, now what? So we actually just talked about that. And I think for her, it's like, once I make that serve, okay, I'm ready to play defense. And if I can get the ball up, I get to go serve some more. Mm-hmm. So I think we also talk about her, we want to get at least 2 serves, not just 1 serve and I'm out of there. We want to tough serve, get them out of system, make a dig, and then she can go on maybe a little bit of a run. So that's our goal for her, is to get at least 2. If we can get 3, even better. 3-point runs are huge. So that's our goal. But now it's just, we got to dig that ball so you can go back there and serve again.
Oh, that's great. Andi Jackson, wow. How good has she been for you guys to start the season? She just seems even more athletic, if that was even possible going into this year.
Yeah, she actually, in our weight room, we have kind of an all-time, I'm trying to think of the name of it, but we measure our approach jump, our standing jump, our pro agility time, and our 10-yard dash. And then there's this algorithm that spits out a number. So you want to be above 2,000 points is the ultimate goal. So it's 500 in each category. So we have an all-time list, and I think it goes Kenzie Maloney, Bree Holman, Katie and Amber Rolfson, and then I'm hanging on by a thread at the bottom. But Andi passed me. So she did get more athletic. She increased her vertical. Who would have thought it's possible? So she put on a ton of muscle, has just gotten even more athletic. But the biggest thing I've noticed about her from last year to this year is that she's just calmer out there, and she's a high-strung athlete. She's fast twitch. Like, that's just how she operates, and not everyone is that way. Some people are a little bit more relaxed. I would say her and Bergen might be complete opposites. But I've seen her just kind of calm down, take some deep breaths, and just kind of see the game for what it is, rather than just being a little bit maybe too anxious and just a little bit too hyped up. She just looks more mature and more calm, and then you can see the game has slowed down for her because of that. So I think she made physical growth, but I think her mental growth has been the biggest determining factor in her success, and you kind of just see that look on her face, like, I've been here before, I've done this before, and it's been really cool to see just the growth from being a freshman to a sophomore.
Did she let you know that she passed you, or did you just see that that was the case?
I think we knew it was coming. Everybody knew it was coming. It was only a matter of time until Andi Jackson knocked me off, but we were kind of messing with the numbers and all of that, because it's also determined by your weight and stuff too. So we're like, okay, what's her exact number? And then we kind of went back and forth on it. And now, yeah, I think Brian let me know first, because every time we do the testing, I'm like, me and Jalen both email back, is Kelly still on the list? And he was like, nope, he's out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How capable is she of being at the top of that list? Can she get there?
Ooh, I'm trying to think of the exact numbers, but Kenzie Maloney is like up there. She's close to 3,000. So trying to get above 2,000 is hard, but I want to say Kenzie's like 2,700. So Andi might still be a couple points away, a couple hundred points away, but I think Kenzie got that maybe her senior year. So there's some opportunity. Who knows?
Wow. But I did just want to hit on that too, though, because, they were talking about how she's got a higher touch point now. So how does that change the adjustments that Bergen now, when she's setting Andi, that she has changed that a little bit?
Yeah, she touches about 10.8, so I think that's right. The top of the antenna is 10 feet, which is equal to a basketball rim. So
she can dunk a basketball.
I was actually talking to my fiance and our friends about this. Like, can Andi dunk? I'm like, it would just be if she can palm the ball or not. She could probably dunk a tennis ball. So, but I don't think we want to try that theory in season, maybe outside of season. But we haven't changed too much, but it's just knowing, hey, her potential's up here. So if we set her low, it might be kind of limiting that potential. But then there's kind of that balance of, if I set her too high, then she can't hit it. So I know the middles, all of them have been working on just having a really fast arm and getting on the set. And Jalen's mantra right now is like, we don't care what the set looks like, we want to get set. So that's really freeing for Bergen and really freeing for Kenna to know that they're working on dealing with maybe some less than ideal sets. But for her, it's just, obviously we want to keep it high enough for her to use her athleticism and maybe go over the block or snap it high off a fingertip. So it's a really fine balance, because we have seen some where we're setting her too high to where she can't even hit it. So it's that player or that setter hitter connection, and it's different for everyone. And we haven't really focused on the fact that she can touch higher, so we need to set her higher. But I think they just kind of can feel that in their connection, and they make little adjustments here and there. Yeah,
I was going to say, could it also depend on who you're matching up with? Maybe you do set her higher so she can get higher over the block, or just maybe depends on the day? Or is it more pretty much once you get there, that's what you want?
Yeah, I think who we're playing is more so determines what route we run. If we're close to the setter or far from the setter, obviously Andi runs that slide a lot. But I think it's just kind of deciding where we want to attack them and how we're going to kind of go at their defense a little bit.
Great. Well, let's go into this week. You got SMU on the road, and then you got another busy weekend. So what's the week look like? How are you guys approaching? What are the goals for this week?
Well, like I said, we've been playing kind of sporadically, so we don't really have these huge training days. Today will kind of be a little bit more of a training day once we get to SMU, but whenever we go to a new gym, our goal is to get used to the gym. We love to serve and pass and get some setter-hitter connection going, just because sometimes the depth perception can be crazy. But I think for us, it's just being efficient and taking care of business at whatever's in front of us. So today, we travel all day, we have a practice. Okay, we need to get used to the gym quick, and we want to be low error and just play really clean. And then we have a game, and then we come home, we have practice, which is a pre-game practice, so not a lot of training. Can we be clean? Can we be efficient in a short amount of time? Then we play Citadel, same thing on Friday, efficient, clean practice, and then we actually have some recruits coming into town, so that'll be a little bit busy, and then obviously it's Colorado football game, and everyone's excited for that, and I know we play in the not morning, but early afternoon, and then football plays. So it'll be a high energy, fun kind of environment. But I think in these kind of windows where we have games every other day, it's just keeping them focused, keeping it fun, and just kind of making sure that we're super efficient and we're just getting these quick bursts of drills. And if it's not going well, we have to spend more time on it. So we just want to be quick, efficient, and play clean volleyball.
You going to be out there on Saturday night after you guys pick up another W, and then maybe go watch the football team pick up a W?
Yeah, I think we're gonna take the recruits to the game. We might be down on the sideline. I obviously wasn't at the game. Heard we're on the other sideline now, so it'll be kind of a fun experience, and just to get our recruits on campus, that's always exciting. And so we'll take them to the game. I don't know how long they'll last. Usually our players are like, we're at one half and we're out of here because they have to stand and all that stuff. But usually it's just till the first half, and then kind of go have dinner or however it works out, and then head home. But the volleyball team will be there to support.
Awesome. Kelly Hunter, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck this week, and we'll look forward to having you back here in a few weeks and diving into all things. We love talking setters here on the Dig. So.
I love it. Well, thank you for having me. It's always fun.
Again, that is Kelly Hunter as for this week's episode of The Dig, presented by Emeritus. Emeritus is proud to power this podcast and Husker Volleyball. Thanks for listening and watching. As always, make sure you subscribe and like wherever you listen to never miss an episode right here on the Huskers Radio Network.